The image of a global arms race usually involves steel and fire. But the silos and stockpiles of the 20th century are fading away. The modern superpower standoff relies on invisible computer code instead of physical weapons. This shift is driven by dual-use technology. An algorithm built to optimize delivery truck routes for a commercial logistics company can be repurposed to coordinate a swarm of military drones. That versatility is entirely new. A nuclear warhead sitting in a subterranean silo has exactly one purpose: mass destruction. It also has a massive, highly trackable physical footprint. You know where it is, and you know exactly what it does. Because artificial intelligence is invisible and easily disguised as civilian software, the geopolitical frontline has moved. It's no longer a border you can guard with troops. The new front lines are data centers and capital markets. You can see this new front line opening up in the Middle East. In 2025, Gulf Cooperation Council's sovereign wealth funds moved to acquire artificial intelligence at scale, treating it with the same priority as national defense. This chart compares historical global tech spending to recent Gulf deployments. In a single year, the 7 largest Gulf funds committed $126 billion to build out AI platforms and American infrastructure. This spending is a defensive strategy. Nations are buying up server capacity and training platforms to keep their economies and militaries from functioning as digital colonies of foreign powers. In this era, purchasing control over the core code and the hardware that runs it is the ultimate act of national defense. We can see this defense strategy playing out through major financial players like Abu Dhabi's Mubadala Investment Company and Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund. They have designated artificial intelligence as their must-own asset class. This map illustrates the directional shift of that capital. Sovereign investment into China dropped sharply to $4.3 billion, while an overwhelming $131 billion surged into the United States. This deliberate pivot toward American infrastructure is how these nations are building algorithmic sovereignty. That is, the ability to maintain absolute national control over your own technology stack, from the silicon chips to the final software outputs. We are watching a new kind of diplomacy in real time. Geopolitical alliances are being cemented by data center acquisitions and semiconductor investments, rather than traditional treaties. But the hardware bought in boardrooms has a direct translation to the battlefield. The same processing power securing economies is creating covert military capabilities. To understand the impact, you have to look at the kill chain. This is the standard military sequence of identifying a threat, tracking its movements, and deploying a weapon to destroy it. Historically, that sequence required weeks of human intelligence gathering, satellite analysis, and chain-of-command approvals. Artificial intelligence is compressing that timeline down to automated seconds. We are already seeing this happen in active conflict zones. Algorithms are automating the discovery of cyber vulnerabilities and feeding targeting data directly to drone networks and ground vehicles. Compressing the kill chain to machine speed removes a crucial buffer from warfare: human hesitation. You might assume that only nations with hundreds of billions of dollars can play this game, but there is a massive asymmetric vulnerability here, driven by a process known as AI distillation. This flowchart shows how distillation works. A rogue actor uses a cheap algorithm to interrogate a highly advanced multi-billion-dollar system. By feeding millions of questions to the smart one and copying the answers, they extract top-tier capabilities for almost zero cost. This copycat mechanism bypasses the traditional financial barriers to entry. High-level cyber attack generators, automated propaganda tools, and targeting systems can proliferate endlessly to anyone with an internet connection. AI distillation alters the logic of this race. In this environment, massive capital cannot guarantee technological superiority. That endless proliferation brings us to the core regulatory crisis. You can seize physical uranium at a border checkpoint to stop a nuclear program. You cannot seize a mathematical formula. You can smuggle a world-altering algorithm on a thumb drive, or just send it over the internet. The United Nations is currently struggling to establish any legally binding international frameworks for lethal autonomous weapons. The technology is moving much faster than the diplomacy. This lack of physical and legal containment has triggered a global race to the bottom. Tech companies and defense ministries are prioritizing rapid deployment over rigorous safety checks, just to stay ahead. which leads to the ultimate terrifying scenario. An algorithm operating at machine speed misinterprets its sensor data, compresses the kill chain, and strikes a civilian hospital instead of a military base. If a machine executes that strike with zero human input, who goes to jail? Do you arrest the military commander who deployed the system, the programmer who wrote the code, or the software itself? This is why experts are urgently calling for meaningful human control. It is the legal and ethical requirement that a human being, not an algorithm, must retain the final authority to take a life. If we fail to establish that strict accountability right now, this invisible arms race will permanently outpace our ability to intervene.